going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. You know who it is by now.
Jimothy.
So ladies and gents, we are here. Banlist has dropped. I don't even know where from, but all I know is that my phone was blowing up. I was seeing messages, I was seeing images. Yes, I did get a bit of a spoiler alert, which is a little bit unfortunate because it would have been nice to react to it. However, we are here. We know what cards are off the list. Here are my initial thoughts. So first and foremost, Yugioh and Kalbeck, the Shizu cards, they just needed to go, especially with Lights 1 going to be making its way into the game. We don't really need those cards. Those cards are so unfair. They force your opponent into doing stuff. They reveal knowledge about your deck, as well as getting your engine started. And if your deck isn't a graveyard eccentric deck, you're going to struggle, to be honest. You're going to struggle. Mathmech Circular, oh boy, I have got some very, very harsh feelings about this. Now, I used to really react to the ban list and it used to really affect me. I used to think, oh, why is this card getting banned? I want my card to stay. I want to play this strategy. But the thing that I've kind of learned over time is that Konami have obviously got the foresight over what cards are going to be printed, what cards are coming into the game, and they must have seen something with Circular that they didn't particularly like. Now, I do know Circular is a busted card, I ain't going to lie, but at one, it wasn't really doing anything, not even in the OCG, so unless they can see something that we can't, I do think that it's a bit of a weird one in my opinion, especially as initially I thought it was because it was trying to push the firewall cards, but they did nothing, and like Cyberse in of itself as an archetype, as a deck, isn't really doing much unless you're playing like Salamangreats, which is going to benefit from some of the fire support that's out there, to be honest. So Mathmech Circular, it's a perplexing one. It's a powerful card, but I don't think it needed to be banned, to be honest. I think it was fine at one. It sold Two Tales of the Noble Knight. Oh boy, no longer will I have Infernoble players looking me straight in the eye after they normal summon Neo Space Connector, because I think the thing that kind of got me with this card was the fact that we've also got the Sinful Spoils engine out, and I've watched an Infernoble player just extend way beyond what they should like realistically be able to do. And I feel like if you're trying to interact with a deck in order to have a fighting chance, them going into a Sold or going vice versa, going into the Sinful Spoils engine to get a level 1 body on board and still potentially go full combo, or at least end on like maybe a Charles Pop as well as a Emperor Charles Negate, I think is absolutely crazy. I mean, I was playing Vanquish Soul and I interrupted my Infernoble player like 6 or 7 times, and he still managed to end on a considerable board, mainly because of Isolde. It's got 2 effects. Obviously, you don't really interact with the first effect because it doesn't really enhance the game state, but its second effect where it dumps those equip spells for cost, I think that's crazy. And this being a busted Link 2 that just does all what the deck needs, I just think it's mad anyway, and it makes warrior decks kind of just funnel into Isolde. It's going to be unfortunate. A few FTK decks that needed Isolde to like function to be able to do their FTKs is no longer going to be a thing, but hey ho, it is what it is. So all in all, I'm not too upset about the bans, to be honest. Going on to, let me just make this bigger. Going on to the limited cards. This is interesting. Orcust Harp Horror. We needed this back for a while. Sky Striker's more or less back to where it was. I can't even remember. Thunder Dragons is almost there, minus the Colossus, which I hope that doesn't come back, by the way. But Redux, I don't think it's going to do much. Rescue Ace Airlifter was an interesting one. I don't know. I don't think it's really going to make the deck change too much. It's going to lose a little bit consistency, and it's going to make its plays a little bit more linear because you've only got the one airlifter to kind of like pop off. You'll be able to recycle it, no problem, as well as search it, but you're going to have to waste one of your searches on potentially searching for an airlifter if you don't manage to get yourself into an emergency. So that's a bit of an interesting hit, but like fire support's coming out, ladies and gents, so I can't imagine that it's really gonna affect the deck too much because there's so much fire support coming out, and you can replace those 2 airlifters with other cards just to boost the consistency. So yeah, Unchained Soul of Shavara, I think everybody's been speaking about this now. It kind of needed to happen. Being able to just go full combo as well as dodge like targeted effects is just, it's silly. It reminds me of Vanquish Soul, but that's Vanquish Soul's whole gimmick. This just does it for free, and you've got 3 of them, as well as it setting a card from the deck when it goes to the graveyard. I think it does way too much. It's a quick effect, so it's just, yeah, it's too much application basically, so definitely needed to be reduced. It doesn't kill the deck, which I like, so you can still play Unchained. All those players that have invested in the deck aren't gonna like lose out. You can still play Unchained, but it's just a little bit less consistent, and you're a little bit more susceptible to hand traps because of the lack of Shavara. You're gonna have to be intentionally searching Shavara in order to kind of like facilitate your combo. So that's going to be an interesting like pivot to see where Unchained players kind of like take their deck building, so to speak. The Sun Avalon stuff, I think that was slack. It was literally a slap in the face. Like, who's actually playing this deck? Bar were like 4 people. And even now, like, I don't think those people are playing it. Yeah, I think Jessica Robinson is probably the flagship Yu-Gi-Oh player that pilots plants. But beyond that, I don't know. Sun Avalon Dryas, like, yeah, your deck's gonna die more to like a Veiler and Imperm or something along those lines. But yeah, it is what it is. If the World Challenge Justicar, I think, was an interesting unban. Now, it's not the same as, like, is it 2019, 2020, when it was just running riot. There's obviously been a lot of power creep since then, and I don't think that this card is going to do as much as it did previously. But I have not tested this card, and I know that it does a whole load of stuff, all the stuff. And being able to just extend with just one normal summon just means you can just like pop off. I think that's crazy. Something to watch out for. Snatch steals, whatever. We've already got triple tactics talents in the format. We've also got is it change of heart, and now we've got snatch steal. Like, yeah, it is what it is. The floodgates, oh my days. Now this is an interesting one. So goals and match, rivalry of warlords, as well as there can be only one. All of them are limited, and I don't know. I feel like I understand what Konami's trying to do with regards to floodgates, because from a spectacle standpoint, I don't feel like it makes for a good watch, and it can be frustrating to interact with them. They're very, very powerful, and they can be very, very polarizing, and it gives power to some of those rogue decks. But then, in the same breath, when you've got meta decks then utilizing these cards, it's very, very difficult to play, especially when those meta decks have got like negates, counter traps, hand traps, whatever up. It's very difficult. But the thing that got me most was that they've limited these ones, which arguably are the most like utilized. But then things like, I don't know, skill drain, for example, summon limit, for example, those cards are just okay, which I feel like they're not okay. So I don't know what their aim was with regards to specifically these 3, and not like addressing any of the other ones, especially with like Labyrinth. I think they're probably trying to push Labyrinth to be able to do something else, or just be able to have a little bit more of an impact on the meta, because they've literally just ignored Labyrinth and said have everything you want while we take away everything from everybody else. So yeah, it is what it is. Like turn 1 Eradicator Epidemic Virus. Nobody else, no other deck is playing it, but Labyrinth can, and Labyrinth has kind of been in the meta for like a year now. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on those. So limited cards, very interested. I love to see Harpower. I wonder how much like skullduggery and shenanigans Harpower is gonna bring, because I'll be honest, like a lot of people saying it's not gonna do much, but the ability to just kind of like go into a dark like and just continue plays, like just slapping an Orcus engine in, I don't know, Sky Striker, for example, or yeah, it does a lot. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what people can do. But I think the main thing is it doesn't do anything more than what meta decks can do right now anyway. So yeah, I feel like that's why they unbanned it. But yeah. Semi-limits, interesting one. Dino Wrestler Pancratops. We like this. No one's playing Dino Wrestlers. Let's be honest. No one's playing Dino Wrestlers. I've tried to play the deck, and I think it's trash. But Pancratops is a good card. It makes for some interesting interactions, so to speak, and it gives going second players an opportunity to do something. So it's a big body, it can beat over stuff, and it can tribute itself a cost, which I think is very, very valuable. So having 2, who knows, that just might be instead of like a Cosmic Cyclone or something like that. And I value it. I think it's a really good hit. I think it opens up a few more options. At 3, it can be a little bit oppressive. I can see why, because it kind of like limits your deck building, because it's easy to put Pancratops in because it covers so much ground. But in the same breath, I do feel like it's not a bad unlim. So I feel like 2's probably its best place, just so it doesn't like jump back into the format. But hey ho, that's just my thoughts. Speedroid Terratop, we all know why this is here. Goblin Riders, just like say no more. It is what it is. It does make like comboing off into like rank 3s a thing. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Terratop, but I can't really see it doing much outside of like Goblin Riders and maybe the odd, like, I don't know, Speedroid list. So yeah. And then Pearly Sleepy Memory, it is an interesting hit. This is a consistency hit. It's not going to just do all these mad draws that it was doing previously. And you can't reveal 3 Pearly Sleepy Memory off the continuous spell or whatever its effect was. I can't remember what its name was, but yeah. So you have to kind of like mix and match your spells, which means you could get something that you don't necessarily want for that situation, which I think it's good. Adds a little bit of like RNG element to the game rather than it just being like hyper consistent, so to speak. So yeah, I'm all right with that. Like, I got nothing against cats. I don't play the deck, but I can see why that hit was done. And from Unlimits, this is interesting. Like, Infinity Archfiend, like, somebody's gonna do something silly with that deck. Like, it is gonna happen. Like, it's not even a joke. Kashtira Unicorn, yeah, it is whatever. Like, whatever. Kashtira is not necessarily going to be doing much more. They've already started to unban them, which I think is interesting because it was only banned not too long ago. I think it was the list before last. But yeah, Unicorn is what it is. Mind Control, no one's going to really play that. I can't see that being played, especially over like talents. Like, are you really going to search this off Triple Tactics Thrust? I doubt it. Spellbook of Judgments literally done nothing, so I can't see that. Upstart Goblin is very interesting though. This does boost the consistency of decks, and this makes me question as to why they did this, as well as Pot of Desires, as well as doing nothing to Pot of Prosperity. Now, you're not going to play all of them in the same deck, but what you're saying to like most of the player base is go for max consistency. Like 40 card decks can potentially now become 37 card decks because Upstart Goblin is now back in the format, and I don't know how long that's going to last, to be honest, especially with how hyper consistent decks are already. Like, I don't know, it kind of perplexed me when I seen it on the unlimited side, but it is what it is. Desires is whatever. Like, people are playing 2, they'll play 3. Yeah, it doesn't really make much of a difference. Sprite Starter as well. Like, I can't really see Sprites doing anything unless they get some busted level 2s that haven't been given the Konami oversight, and somebody from work experience in the research and development departments just said, you know what, let's try this card out. So yeah, Sprite Starter is what it is. I'm actually going to get the 3rd one actually, so I might even mess around with sprites at locals. But that is it, ladies and gents. All in all, a very, very, that's me, a very, very interesting ban list. I feel like it's definitely going to change the meta. And the initial thought that I had was, I feel like competitive players are going to have a problem with this Forbidden and Limited list, mainly because it's the format was already diverse, and now with all these unlimits, all this movement, it's just opened up the format even more. Yes, Telements aren't going to be as strong with the Ishizu cards being as being a thing anymore, so you might see Telements start to die off a little bit, which is probably what Konami wants anyway, so people pick up other decks. But in terms of like the whole meta, the meta was wide anyway, and I feel like it's now just going to get a little bit wider. For me, it makes it more exciting because you just can see some like random goodness type decks. But for competitive players, they might struggle to kind of like define a format, so to speak. I can't see Infernobles being anywhere, to be honest, especially with the Isolde hit. But there will be some players that will try and cook up something, which is going to be interesting. So we'll have to wait and see. But what are your thoughts on the ban list, ladies and gents? Let me know in that comment section below. Like I said, I'm very, very active. I'll get back to as many people as I possibly can. And we find ourselves at the end of another video. If you do like this content, you know what to do by now. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, all of that beautiful good stuff. And I will definitely see you guys on the next video. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.